So many people think that you have to lose that balance, like you have to sacrifice one thing. It's either the grades or the social life or the health. And I'm here to tell you, at least for me, I found a way to be able to have all of those things. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's been a little while since I posted. It's been like 2 months, so hopefully from now on I'll be able to be a little more consistent now that I have a better understanding of like my schedule and things like that. I think that I've worked it out. Hopefully in next quarter I'll be able to post on here a little bit more. But as you can see by the title, I'm going to be sharing with you guys some tips for success that I've learned along the way, as I've just finished my first quarter of pharmacy school. Yeah, so super exciting, and obviously I only have 1 quarter under my belt, so there's a lot more to learn, but I want to share with you guys just some things that have worked well for me so far. So just to give some background information, I am a first-year pharmacy student at in a program that is a 3-year accelerated track. So a lot of PharmD programs are 4 years, but there are some 3-year accelerated programs. So that explains why I've been so busy the past couple of months, just like adjusting to school again in general, but also to the accelerated track. But also the program runs on a quarter system, so that explains why I just finished like in the middle of the summer, or kind of towards the end of the summer, and then I'm actually starting back my 2nd quarter in literally like a week. So we had a couple weeks off to kind of like refresh, and then we're back at it in just a week here. I feel like I've found a lot of balance. In my first quarter, I was still able to go to the gym 4 to 5 times a week, see my friends and family. I traveled home like 3 times in a matter of 3 months. I was able to be in my friend's wedding. I was able to explore this new city that I'm in. I was able to read and watch TV, like continue with my hobbies. I was able to eat healthy. I was able to get like a good amount of sleep, like on average throughout the week. So I feel like it's definitely doable to have a balance. So many people think that you have to lose that balance, like you have to sacrifice one thing. It's either the grades or the social life or the health. And I'm here to tell you, at least for me, I found a way to be able to have all of those things. It takes a lot of discipline, it takes a lot of structure and organization, but we're going to talk about some tips that may help you build your own structure to be able to achieve that. These are just suggestions. You can take or toss whatever based on your personal preferences, your personal situation. I've seen other videos where people gave tips for success in like medical school and things like that, and there was one guy that I saw who was married and he had like a 1-year-old son, and he still made it work. One of my classmates has a full-time job still, and she has a partner and a house, and she lives an hour away from school, and she still was able to be successful. So if we can do it, then you can too. You just have to like go based off of what works for you. I'm going to be breaking these tips up into 2 different categories. So the first category is just going to focus more so on study tips, and the second category will focus on organization tips and just like overall tips for success. First tip is that location matters. So if you're somebody that thrives in a quiet environment, you need to go to the library or something like that. For example, the 2nd floor of the library at my school is dead silent, and I love that for me and for everybody else who loves silence, who loves studying in silence. If you need a quiet environment, if you know that about yourself, then find a quiet environment. Don't try to force yourself to study in the middle of a party or something like that, or in the middle of a family gathering if you know that that's not going to work for you. You can also maybe adapt it. For the longest time, I didn't study without listening to music, and I found that listening to like lo-fi or lo-fi music on YouTube, or like on my phone, or even just like chill R&B playlists was actually not that bad. It actually kind of helped me. I thought I would get distracted because that was something that used to happen to me in college and high school. But the moral of the story is that location matters. Find a location that you thrive in and let that be like your go-to place. The next tip is to set goals. So every time I would have a study session, whether it be here at my desk or at the library or a coffee shop, I would always make a list of everything I wanted to get done that day or get done in that study session. It's increased my productivity by allowing me to keep track of what I've done and what I still need to do, and just make me feel like I did something, and reward myself for the things that I did do. So if you know that there's 4 chapters that you need to get through, then you type out, okay, I need to get through this chapter, this chapter, this chapter. I found that like making those lists just made me feel like I was like actually getting stuff done. In my study sessions some structure, and like I said, it just increased my overall productivity. The next 2 kind of go hand in hand. So this third tip is to keep track of time, and also remember to take real breaks. Set timers. So there's something called the Pomodoro method. If you're not familiar with it, there's so many videos on YouTube. There's articles that you can read all over the internet. I'm sure there's probably like TikTok videos, Instagram reels, all types of information about the Pomodoro method. So the original Pomodoro method is basically that you study in intervals. So you set a timer for 25 minutes, then you take a break for 5 minutes, and then set the timer again, off and on, off and on. And then after you do that a few times, I believe it's 4, then that's when you take your longer break. So I do the same type of thing. It's not the exact Pomodoro method. I actually do longer intervals. So I am on or studying focused for 50 to 60 minutes. And then I set a timer for 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how I'm feeling after those 50 to 60 minutes. And those are my intervals. So 50 to 60 on, 5 to 10 off. And I don't really take like a longer break at the end. I usually just like, after the 4 times that I've done that, it's been 4 hours and it's time for me to do something else with my day. So eat or go live my life or something like that. I usually don't study longer than like 4 hours straight. That may change eventually with this second quarter coming up and the classes getting harder, but I don't really see myself studying like more than 4 hours at a time, even with those 10-minute breaks like in the middle. Try it, set a timer, and make sure you stick to the timer. So that's what I meant by take real breaks. Don't just like be like me and on your 10-minute break like you're still working. Like actually step away if you need to. Sometimes at the library I would like literally take a lap around the library, like literally just walk from where I was at, get up, walk around the whole library, come back. Then I would like get on my phone, social media. That was a good time for me to like text my friends, text my family, or I would literally just like stare at the wall, just like anything outside of looking at what you're looking at, to give your brain a chance to like breathe, absorb, and take an actual break. So the next tip is to use your resources. Any learning objectives, supplemental materials, any like study guides or practice exams, practice questions that your professors or teaching assistants give you, office hours, whatever. Use your resources. If you are struggling, go to office hours, get a tutor, use your resources. That's literally what they're there for. That's what you're paying for. Or even if you have a scholarship, that's what the third party that funded you to go to school is paying for. Use your resources, especially emphasis on practice exams and learning objectives. That was like my jam my first quarter. And I plan to make a video that goes more into depth about like how I use the learning objectives, because I didn't like, there's more to it than that, but like I said, I plan to make a video that goes more into depth about like how I did that. But the point I'm trying to make is like, use whatever resources are provided to you. And that may sound obvious, but like I have realized that a lot of people don't use the resources that are given to them. Even like your professor is a resource. In my program, it's less than 100 people, so our professors aren't as bombarded with students But even if they are, like, most of them are willing to help. They love to help as long as you just like ask in advance. Obviously, asking for help like the night before an exam is probably not the best idea, but if you ask for help early and often, use your resources early and often, every resource available to you, especially if you're struggling, then that will help you to be successful. So I shifted my focus from like memorizing and just like shoving information into my brain to really trying to like understand and make connections within the content. Essentially, I try to focus on learning and understanding the material rather than just getting an A. Because ultimately, as someone in healthcare, when you focus on those higher levels of learning that they're trying to get you to focus on, it's going to be beneficial for you in the long run. It's like more beneficial for you as a healthcare provider to be able to apply the knowledge that you have, and be able to like make connections between different things instead of like, I just shoved this information into my brain for that one exam 6 years ago and now I don't know it. If you focus on the higher levels of learning, then the information sticks with you for a longer period of time. If you can apply something, if you can teach it, if you can teach it to someone else, if you can understand it and like make connections between that and a different concept, that's how you know that you really know it. Obviously, memorization is the first step, and there's some things that are truly just, you just gotta memorize it. But I think, again, memorization is that first level, and you can progressively build more and more when you try to understand it. You can do this by asking yourself open-ended questions, but make sure that you're focused on like the more higher level open-ended questions. So instead of just what is this, asking yourself, how does this work? Why does this happen when this happens? How is this connected to this other pathway? And that'll probably come up in other future videos when I talk about like my learning objective method and my note-taking method. Next tip is to study in advance. So this was something that was one of the biggest changes that I made in my first quarter, that was like super different from things that I did in undergrad. In undergrad, if I had an exam on Tuesday, March 5th, I would be meeting with my people and we would be trying to study everything from like a month ago on March 3rd. Like 2 days before, we'd be trying to shove all this information into our heads. And obviously in an accelerated 3-year program, this is a little bit more challenging to study in advance. And this applies to regular 4-year programs and semester systems as well. But study these things. Like if you have a lecture on March 5th, then the night of March 5th or whenever you plan to study, afternoon of March 5th, after classes March 5th, you should be studying that material that you just learned. And then you should continue to study it, go back to it the next day that you are studying, and in addition to that new material. And it doesn't have to be like, when you go back to it, it doesn't have to be something long and drawn out. This is something called spaced repetition. Again, there's a lot of videos and research on spaced repetition. You can look it up and find more specific videos on the concept. Basically, I'm just telling you to study in advance. Please do not cram. Honestly, it might work for you, right? It might work for you. But going back to the tip that I just gave you about those higher levels of learning, understanding, and application versus just like shoving stuff into your brain. If you cram for something, you're gonna forget it and you're gonna like not be able to recall it later. A lot of these classes in pharmacy school, medical school are progressive. So if you don't understand this concept, it's gonna make it a lot harder for the next concept or the next class that's like a more advanced or in-depth focus on like a certain topic. So in that moment, you might do well on the exam, but like later on, you might be struggling. And it's just not a good habit to have. It doesn't have a lot of longevity, in my opinion. So just don't do it. It's not worth it. Don't do it. Study in advance, please. Take it from me. I did that this semester or this quarter, and it worked for me. I did not study in advance in the past. It did not work for me. So take it from me. Take it from other videos, which is where I learned about it. Which say to study in advance. Now we're moving on to the second section, which is just plain general organization, life tips. Get some type of like organization method whether it's digital or on paper. So in high school and for most of college, paper planners were my ride or die. My passion planner and my journals and my notebooks were my ride or die. I still do have a passion planner. I still do journal. I still love writing things down and keeping things in multiple places. However, I've kind of pivoted to become more of a digital girl, and high school me would be like kind of yelling at me right now, but it's just what works for me right now in this stage of my life. But whatever works for you, stick with that. I've grown to love Google Calendar. The only downside of Google Calendar compared to like a digital planner is usually digital planners have like blank sheets of paper in the back or the front where you can write down additional things like grocery lists or just like a random brain dump, to-do lists. You can plan out your workouts for the week. Google Calendar doesn't really have anything for that. You'll have to use a different digital method for that, and I use something called Notion. I have grown to love Notion. Notion is that girl. I love Notion so much. Eventually I'm gonna make a video that gives you guys a tour of my Notion, but I use Notion for those other things. I use it for planning my workouts. I use it for planning my meals. I use it for grocery lists. I use it for lists of the books that I want to read. Like I pretty much use Notion for everything except scheduling, which I use Google Calendar for, just because I've already been using it for so long, and trying to integrate it into my Notion was too much. This next tip is to schedule everything. Schedule everything. When I say schedule everything, I mean it. So obviously you as a student are probably thinking, okay, I need to put my classes. Yes, please put your classes on there. Exams are important things to put on there as well. Quizzes, assignment due dates, scholarship deadlines and due dates, meetings, if you have a job or do research or extracurricular activities. So if you have meetings, work, things like that, obviously those are important things to schedule. However, those things that you may not think to schedule, you should also schedule them. This includes study time. Yes, I used to literally put in my Google Calendar a 4-hour block for studying on Saturday and Sunday. Time for the gym. Yes, I used to literally put from 6:30 to 7:30 a.m. A block for being at the gym into my Google Calendar. Social events and outings. So I used to block off time for social events and outings. I blocked off time to call my family. My sister and I have kind of like a standing call every week, so that was automatically blocked off. But if you have other family members and you want to like set a call with them, maybe your parents or your siblings, block off that time as well. This seems silly, but it's important. Block off sleep if you need to. If you feel like you're one of those people that's gonna like sacrifice your sleep, please don't do it. It's not worth it. Like obviously you're not always gonna be able to get like a full 8 hours, but getting 2 hours on average is not good. That's not a good thing. So I didn't block this off on my Google Calendar, but I did have a set bedtime. So by 10 or by 11, I was closing my computer. Even if I wasn't asleep, my computer was gonna be closed. Like that was my set bedtime. And I would literally write in my planner bedtime 10:30. Did I always go to bed at 10:30? Most of the time, yeah. I feel like I was pretty good about it because I was mostly tired and exhausted by that time. But sometimes I would go to bed at like 12. But the point that I'm trying to make is like, if you don't schedule these things, then it can get difficult to feel like you have the time for all of these things, but I promise you, you do. You just have to schedule it, discipline yourself, stick to the schedule, and you will have time for all of these things. Coming down the home stretch here. So number 9 is be prepared to pivot. So with that last tip in mind about like schedule everything, obviously life is not perfect. There's gonna be hiccups. There's gonna be like random cancellations or things are not going to go as planned. So please be prepared to pivot. It's important to be disciplined and to stick to your schedule, but don't be so stuck to your schedule that like you have a fit if things don't go according to the schedule, because life is crazy, things will happen, so just be prepared to like adapt. So my last tip here, this one is probably one of the most important. I should have put this first, but I think it just kind of is a great way to like tie everything together. Put yourself first. Listen to your body. So obviously don't make a habit of canceling on yourself, but there's gonna be times where you need to cancel that workout. It happened to me. There will be times I would wake up and I'm like, I am exhausted. I cannot do this right now. And so I just wouldn't. However, I would reschedule that time for some other point in my schedule. So if I didn't make the gym at that moment, then I would do my workout after class, or I would do my workout at a later day. There were times that I just like threw it out completely. The point I'm trying to make is that if you are not your best self, you're not gonna be the best student. And so taking care of you and prioritizing yourself is extremely important, like above all things. And I feel like now more than ever, it's becoming something that is more valuable to students, is their mental health and like self-care, because it's important. Like, you don't want to fall apart and waste everything that you've been working for. I will never apologize for getting my sleep. I will never apologize for getting my workouts in, because those are the things that make me healthy. Those are the things that make me happy. And ultimately, that's more important than getting an A, because if I get an A but I'm falling apart, it wasn't worth it, you know? But if I get an A and I'm like healthy in addition to that, and I'm happy and I'm smiling in addition to that, and I feel strong and good about myself, and I feel like well-rounded, then it's more worth it, you know what I mean? Obviously, you know, with hard work, there's gonna be times where you're gonna be tired. There's gonna be times where maybe you don't feel so good, but you know yourself, and you know when you're approaching a point where like you're pushing a boundary too far, you know? I feel like there's a difference, and that's gonna be, you know, obviously different for everybody. But you know when it's a moment where you need to just push through and have that discipline over motivation. And you know when it's gonna be a time where you're like, hey, I need to take a breather. And it's okay to take a breather. It's necessary. It's more than okay. It's necessary to be kind to yourself on this journey. And that was something that I prioritized 100%, and it paid off. Hopefully you guys were able to either take or toss something from these 10 tips for a successful semester or quarter in pharmacy school, medical school, PA school, nursing, whatever. I look forward to talking to you guys more in my next videos. I hope to be more consistent, because really, like, it makes me so happy to be able to like share my knowledge with other students the way that so many other people on YouTube have shared their knowledge with me. Please don't forget to share this with other students you know. Please don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to see more videos just like this. Comment if you have any suggestions of videos you'd like to see, topics you'd like for me to discuss. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.